Good evening, everyone. Welcome to lecture 10 on animal kingdom. So, in today's lecture, we will be continuing with the phylum chordates. So, in the last lecture, we were dealing with the organisms that belong to the phylum chordata. So, in today's lecture, we will continue with that only. In last lecture, we learned about two different subphylums, Urochordate, the protochordates, initial chordates. And in today's lecture, we will learn about more advanced chordate animals. That is, we will continue with the subphylum Pisces and Amphibia. So, starting with this basis of classification, we have already gone through this many times. So, whatever we are dealing today is the animals that belong to the phylum Chordata. That is, those animals that belong to the kingdom Animalia, that they are multicellular, they are heterotrophic, they are they lack cell wall, they have an organ system level of organization. Their symmetry is bilateral, that is, their body can be divided into two equal halves or identical halves from one axis of symmetry. They have a true-coelom, that is, they are two coelomates, and we are dealing with the animals that have these characteristics and belong to the phylum Chordata. So we learned about some basic characteristics of chordates yesterday. So I'm just going through that again so that we can have an idea. Whatever these characteristics we discussed are present in all the animals and in all the classes that we are going to discuss. So for the chordates, chordates are the ones, as the name suggests, chordate means that have chord, that have string-like structure present in them. So this string-like structure is the notochord, right? So chordates are the one that have a notochord. They have a string-like structure. It is a string-like structure which provides the flexibility to the chordates and allow their more movement. And notochord is not present in the non-chordates. In all the earlier phylum that we discussed, that were the non-chordates that lack the notochord. Next important feature that we discussed was the dorsal tubular nerve cord. In the non-chordates, it was the ventral and solid nerve cord, while if we discussed about the chordates, they have a dorsal tubular nerve cord which is present dorsally to the notochord. Then they have pharyngeal pouches, which in some cases form gill slits, or in some cases they are modified. For example, in some cases they developed into some form of, like, they become the part of auditory canal, right? For example, in humans. So pharyngeal pouches may be present in the form of gill slits, pharyngeal gill slits, where they allow the respiration and exchange of gases, or they may be modified in some. Next feature we discussed was the postrenal tail, which is present in the chordates. We discussed that in chordates, there are certain cases where all of these features must be present in at least one of the stage of their life. So they might not be present in every stage, like it might be case that the notochord is present only in the embryonic stage but not in the adults, or in some cases notochord is present in the embryonic stage but is modified into some other form, like for example in vertebral column in case of vertebrates. Or we see that the pharyngeal pouches are modified into different forms in the adult. So these characteristics must be present in the chordates at least at some point of their life cycle. And based on this is the figure which I showed yesterday also, that they have a pharyngeal pouches, they have a dorsal tubular nerve that runs dorsally to the notochord, and they have a post-anal tail. So this is the phylum Chordata was further subclassified in phylum Urochordata and L10. We discussed about the subphylum Urochordata, where the notochord is present only in the larval stage. So only in the larval stage notochord is present, but it is absent in the adults. Right? We see that the nervous system gets in adult. So in case of urochordates, these things happen. In cephalochordates, the notochord runs from tail to head, and it is present throughout the life cycle. Present. Next subphylum is phylum Vertebrata. Yeah. Okay. So we were discussing about the chordates, the basic characteristics of chordates. So chordates are the ones that have a string-like structure which is present in them. So this string-like structure is the notochord which is present in the chordates. This notochord is the most important and unique feature to the chordates. Otherwise, the other phylums lack the notochord and they are referred to as non-chordates. The second important feature is the dorsal tubular nerve cord. So, unlike non-chordates, they have a dorsal nerve cord and which is tubular, that is, which is hollow. While if we see the nerve cord in the non-chordates, so in non-chordates, it is the ventral and solid nerve cord. So in non-chordates, if nervous system is present, it is usually ventral and it has a solid nerve cord. Next is the pharyngeal pouches. So in some cases, they form the gill slits that helps in the respiration process or in the exchange of gases. And in some cases, they are modified into other structures like the auditory canal in humans. Next important character is the post-anal tail. So in chordates, it is important that each of these characters must be present at least once in their life cycle. So they may be present either in the embryonic stage or they may be present even in the adult stage also. So these are the structures that are present. Like for example, they have pharyngeal pouches. They have a dorsal tubular nerve cord which is present dorsally to the notochord, and they have a post-anal tail. So phylum Chordata is broadly classified into three subphylums, which is the subphylum Urochordata, subphylum Cephalochordata, and subphylum Vertebrata. So we discussed about the Urochordates, that in these animals, these are more closely related to subphylum Vertebrata, and in these animals, notochord is present only in the embryonic stage and in the larval stage. But in adults, notochord is absent. Right? While if I talk about the cephalochordates, cephalo means head, and their notochord is present from tail to head. It extends all over the body from tail to head, and it is present throughout their life. Present throughout the life. That is, it is present even in the adults also. So, the subphylum Cephalochordates. Now we are discussing about the subphylum Vertebrata, in which the notochord is modified into the vertebral column, right? So we can say that all vertebrates are chordates, but if I try to see the reverse, all chordates are not vertebrates. They may be urochordates, they may be cephalochordates, but all chordates are not vertebrates. Vertebrates are the chordates in which notochord, which is a rod-like structure, is modified into is modified into the vertebral column, right? So all vertebrates are chordates, but all chordates are not vertebrates. Only the chordates in which the notochord is modified into the vertebral column are referred to as the vertebrates. So these vertebrates were the class cyclostomata, the class cyclostomata, that is they lack the jaws. The second section is the gnatostomata that have the jaws, in which the jaws are developed, and it is further subdivided into two superclasses. The first superclass is superclass Pisces. The second superclass is superclass tetrapods that have limbs. Tetrapods have limbs. So superclass Pisces is divided into class chondrichthyes and class osteichthyes. Chondrichthyes means that have cartilaginous skeleton. Osteichthyes means that have bony skeleton, that is the bony fish. Fine. So in today's lecture we will see the superclass Pisces. Then in superclass tetrapods we have amphibia, reptilia, aves and mammalia. So we have already discussed about subphylum Urochordata, subphylum Cephalochordata, and in subphylum Vertebrata we have discussed about the class Cyclostomata that lack the jaws, which are primitive vertebrates. Now we have more advanced fish that have the jaws, that is they belong to the section Gnatostomata, and under the superclass Pisces they can further be classified into class Chondrichthyes and class Osteichthyes. So we will start with superclass Pisces. So this superclass includes true fishes. So unlike Agnath, where the class Cyclostomata includes some fish which lack the jaws, superclass Pisces includes the true fish. Study of fish is known as ichthyology, and they are cold-blooded animals. So cold-blooded animals are also known as poikilothermus. So cold-blooded are the animals that cannot regulate. They lack the ability to regulate their temperature. Even it is summer, our body try to maintain this temperature at 37 degrees centigrade. Irrespective of the outer temperature, our body maintains the internal temperature. But in cold, so we are warm-blooded animals, right? We humans are warm-blooded. But the fish are the cold-blooded animals, that is they are poikilothermus. They lack the capacity to regulate their body temperature. So they cannot regulate their internal body temperature. Therefore, they have to change their environment in order to survive if they face any temperature issues. So they are aquatic, they may be fresh water or they may be marine fishes. Their body is long. We all have seen fish. So their body is long. It is boat shaped and it is streamlined. So streamlined body, what is the advantage of streamlined body? So their body is streamlined like this. So this is the streamlined structure. Right? So what is the advantage of this structure? So during the swimming, it allows the easy movement against the flow of the stream. So this streamlined body helps the fish to swim easily. So their body is long, their body is boat shaped and streamlined, and it is divided into three parts: head, trunk and tail. So their body has three parts: head, trunk and tail. Neck is absent in them, and external and middle ears are absent. So we will see that in some, like for example in humans, we have both, like we have external ear, middle ear and then internal ear. But in fish, only the internal ear is present, which acts as a statoreceptor. So what do we mean by statoreceptors? Receptors which are there for the equilibrium, maintaining the equilibrium of the body, that is for the balancing. So only the internal ear is present. However, external and middle ear are absent. So as I mentioned, their body is divided into three parts. The first one is the head. So the first one is the head, the second one is the trunk, the third one is the tail, right? So the body is divided into three parts: head, trunk, and tail. Respiration takes place with the help of the gills, which are naked, and or they are sometimes covered with the help of an operculum. So operculum is the structure that covers the gills. Heart is two-chambered, which is known as the venous heart. So in heart, only the atrium is present. It is two-chambered. It is important to remember in the last when we will cover all and everything. So heart is two-chambered and it is known as the venous heart. Why it is known as the venous heart? Because in this only the impure blood goes, and which goes to the gill for oxygenation from the heart. Oxygenated blood is then distributed to all parts of the body directly from the gills. That is, there is a single circulation of blood. So if I want to draw it here, so suppose these are the gills. So these are the gills. This is the two-chambered heart which is present, and these are the different body organs. Right? So the impure blood from the heart. So basically what happens is the impure blood gets collected into the heart. Impure blood gets collected into the heart, which is then sent to the gills, and gills directly send the oxygenated blood to the organs without sending it back to the heart. Without sending it back to the heart, the oxygenated blood is directly supplied to the organs by the gills. So there is a single circulation. The blood reaches to the heart only once, and it is the impure blood, which is the venous blood, that is deoxygenated. Fine. So it is known as a single circulation. So heart is two-chambered. It is known as venous heart. It contains only impure blood, is related to all the parts of the body directly from the gills. That is, there is a single circulation of the blood. RBCs are nucleated. This is important because in humans, RBCs are not nucleated. They lack the nucleus. Sinus, venous, renal, hepatic total system are found in the circulatory system. In the skull, only one occipital condyle is present. So their skull is called as a monocondylar type. So this we will see the differences when we will see the different classes of the vertebrates. So in reptile, in amphibia, you will see it is dioccipital. Cranial nerves are 10 pairs. Kidney fish are the excretory organs. So they have an excretory organ, kidney. Urinary bladder is absent. Cartilaginous fish excrete urea. Cartilaginous fish means chondrichthyes. They excrete trimethylamine oxide, TMO, and freshwater bony fish excrete ammonia. So cartilaginous fish excrete urea, while bony fishes mostly excrete amine oxide or ammonia. Fish are unisexual, that is, the male and female parts are different. Fertilization may be internal or external. Development is direct, that is, larval stage is not present. Baby fish are called fry or hatchling. So egg directly develops into an adult without going into any larval stage. So the development is direct. So very important thing is migration in fishes. So fish have to migrate in order to give birth to the young ones, and they migrate. So based on the migration, whether they are migrating from salt water to fresh water or from fresh water to salt water, there are two types of migration. The first one is the catadromous migration. So catadromous fish are born in salt water. Then they migrate into the fresh water as juveniles, where they grow into adults before migrating back into the ocean to spawn. Right? So you can see here that they are born in the salt water. Then then they migrate into the fresh water. So they start their life cycle in the marine, that is in the salt water. So they start their life cycle from salt water, then they move to the fresh water where they survive as an adult, and when they have to give birth, they migrate back to the ocean. So example includes angula. The next type of migration is the anadromous migration, which is the reverse of the catadromous, where the fish are born in the fresh water. So the fish are born in the fresh water. So the life cycle starts in the fresh water, then they move to the marine water as an adult, as in juvenile, growing into the adults, and they finally move from marine to fresh water again to spawn. For example, salmon and hilsa. So in anadromous, the life cycle starts in fresh water, and then they move into marine water where they developed into the juveniles, that is the young ones, and then into the adults. Then the adults migrate back to the fresh water for the spawning. Spawning is the egg laying. So they move to the fresh water again for spawning. So this is anadromous migration. So there are two types of migration. You need to remember in catadromous what is happening. This life cycle is starting from the marine water, then they move to fresh water as juvenile, and where they developed into the adults, and they again migrate to the ocean to spawn. And you need to remember the examples also. While in anadromous, fish are born in fresh water, then they migrate to ocean as juveniles, growing into the adults before migrating back into the fresh water to spawn. Example includes salmon and hilsa. Now, as I was mentioning, there are two subclasses. The first one is the chondrichthyes and the second one is the osteichthyes. So chondrichthyes and osteichthyes differ in certain situations, but there are certain similarities between chondrichthyes and osteichthyes. So chondrichthyes and osteichthyes are the two classes of fish that are aquatic chordates. So both of them are aquatic. Both belong to the superclass Pisces. Both have an endoskeleton and an exoskeleton, although the skeleton may differ in the composition. Breathing occurs through the gills in both. They both have a mouth with jaws, although their shape of the mouth differ. Their fins are paired. So these are the similarities in both chondrichthyes and in the osteichthyes. However, there are certain differences between these. So chondrichthyes are also known as cartilaginous fish. As I was mentioning, chondrichthyes are the cartilaginous fish, or they are also known as elasmobranchi. While osteichthyes, ostic word is related to, like for example, you might have seen osteoporosis, which is related to the pores in the bone. So osteichthyes is the bony fish. Chondrichthyes is the cartilaginous fish. It's important, right? And they are also known as teleostomi. So chondrichthyes are known as elasmobranchi, osteichthyes are known as teleostomi. Habitat: chondrichthyes can be exclusively found in marine water. So chondrichthyes are found only in the marine water, while osteichthyes can be found in both fresh and marine water. More than 970 chondrichthyes species have been identified, while more than 27,000 bony fish have been identified. So the endoskeleton, this is very important. Based on this, they are named. The endoskeleton of chondrichthyes is completely made up of cartilages, while the endoskeleton of osteichthyes is completely made up of bones. So this is the point of difference, major point of difference, based on which they are named also. Exoskeleton comprises the exoskeleton of the chondrichthyes comprise very small denticles coated with sharp enamel, which is known as the placoid. So they have scales, placoid scales. In contrast, if I talk about the osteichthyes, they have thin bony plates, which is known as the cycloids. So osteichthyes have cycloids, chondrichthyes have placoids. They have denticles, small denticles coated with the sharp enamel, which is the placoids, while they have while the osteichthyes have cycloids. Position of the mouth, as I was mentioning, the mouth position is different in both. So the mouth of the chondrichthyes is ventrally located, while in osteichthyes it is at the anterior tip of the body. So just at the tip it is located. Oral jaw sets. Chondrichthyes has a single set of jaws, while osteichthyes has two set of jaws. Both are having jaws. Both belong to gnathostomes. Therefore, both have jaws. But the set of jaws differ. In chondrichthyes, it is the single jaw, while in osteichthyes, it has two set of jaws. Gill pairs. Chondrichthyes has 5 to 7 gill pairs, while osteichthyes has 4 pairs of gills. Right? Operculum does not cover the gills of chondrichthyes, while the gills of osteichthyes are covered by the operculum. So these are certain differences. Also, the air bladder, like chondrichthyes, do not have air bladder, and they use oil-filled livers for the buoyancy. So what is the function of air bladder? It provides the buoyancy. That is, it does not let the fish go drawn into the water. So it provides the buoyancy. So chondrichthyes do not have air bladders, but they use oil-filled livers for their buoyancy, while osteichthyes have an air bladder, which is called as a swim bladder or a gas bladder or a fish maw. Tail fin, the chondrichthyes is the heterocircle, while the tail fin of the osteichthyes is the hemicircle. The mode of nutrition, chondrichthyes are generally carnivores. So they mainly feed on the animals, smaller animals, while if we consider osteichthyes can be carnivores, and they may be omnivores, that is, they can feed on both plants and animals. They are herbivores, they may be filter feeders, they may be detritivore, or they may be detritivores means those that feed on dead and decaying matter. Fertilization in chondrichthyes, it is mostly internal fertilization, and in osteichthyes undergoes external fertilization. So what do we mean by external fertilization? The sperm and the ovum are released into the water, and the fertilization takes place outside the female body. Takes place outside female body. Right? So, as I was mentioning, the tail fin of the chondrichthyes, if I want to draw this heterocircle, or the tail fin of the osteichthyes is hemicircle. So, if I want to draw it, you can consider this like it is not symmetrical. So, this is heterocircle in chondrichthyes, while if I consider it homeocircle, so it will be like this, which is symmetrical, right? So the tail fin of the osteichthyes is homocircle, while in chondrichthyes it is heterocircle. So this is the heterocircle form, this is the homeocircle form, right? Excretion, as I have already mentioned, in chondrichthyes it is mostly urea, and in osteichthyes they excrete the ammonia. Example includes the skates, sharks, ray fish in chondrichthyes, while osteichthyes and example include salmon fish, trout, rohu, seahorse, etc. So this is about these superclass spices, where they were further divided into chondrichthyes and osteichthyes, and these are the characteristics of chondrichthyes and osteichthyes. Most important thing is, in chondrichthyes the fish have the cartilaginous endoskeleton, while in osteichthyes it is the bony endoskeleton. The remaining examples, for example, chondrichthyes include sharks, ray fish, etc., while osteichthyes include salmon fish, trout, rohu, etc. And then we learned about the two types of migration, which is the catadromous and anadromous migration. So we learn about these characteristics, that in catadromous it is from marine to fish, fresh water. Then in anadromous it starts in the fresh water and goes to the marine water. The next class is the class amphibia. So the class amphibia includes animals that can live on both places. So unlike class Pisces, where the animal can live only in water, class amphibia animals can live on both places easily, that is in water or in land. However, they are never found in the marine water. They are the first chordate animals that came out of water but are unable to live on the land permanently. So they have to depend on the water for some sources, like for example, they depend on the water for their reproduction. They are not completely land animals, but they are the first chordates that survive on the land. Their eggs do not have a protective covering to check the evaporation, so therefore they have to lay eggs in the water. Otherwise, what will happen is their eggs will desiccate. That is, they will dry. The animals undergo hibernation or estivation, that is the summer sleep and the winter sleep. Hibernation and estivation is the summer sleep, to protect themselves from extreme cold and heat. So in case if they cannot protect them, in order to protect themselves from extreme cold, some animals go for hibernation, that is they go for winter sleep, or to protect them from extreme heat they go for estivation, that is summer sleep. The body is divided into head and trunk. The tail may be present in some amphibians, for example in salamanders. The neck is totally absent. Skin is moist, smooth and scaleless, while in the case of class Pisces, we have the skin that have the scales. Skin has the numerous glands that are found for moistening the skin. Their skin is moist, and they sometimes also possess the poisonous glands which are present on the skin. So the glands may have the function of providing the moisture. They may have the function of protection by secreting the poison. So they may be poisonous glands. And the animals have the web. This is the digit, that is the fingers are known as the digits, and the complete thing is known as the web. So these animals belong to the tetrapods. They have limbs, they have digits. Pigment cells are also found, which are known as the chromatophores. So wherever the word chroma means color, is related to pigment. This is known as the metacrosis. Some amphibians have their ability to change their color, and this is known as the metacrosis. Respiration takes place with the help of the gills. It takes place with the help of the skin also. Skin is moist. It has roots, like it can take place through the gills. It may take place through the lungs. It may take place through the skin, through the buccopharyngeal cavity. Most of them have 2 pairs limbs, and forelimbs have 4 digits, while the hind limbs have 5 digits. So there is a difference in the digits also. Nails and claws are absent. There is no nails or claws. So forelimbs have the 4 digits. So 4 digits are present in the forelimb. While the hind limbs have the 5 digits, right? So hind limbs are present with 5 digits, forelimbs are present with the 4 digits. A well-developed and complete alimentary canal along with the digestive glands are present in the digestive system. Salivary glands are absent in the frogs. The alimentary canal, urinary bladder and the genital ducts open into a common chamber which is known as the cloaca, which is the opening to the exterior. So they have a cloacal aperture. This is the opening to the exterior. They have a well-developed alimentary canal they have an esophagus, they have stomach, they have intestine, which finally opens through the cloacal aperture. This urinary bladder also opens through the cloacal aperture, and the genital ducts also open into the cloacal aperture. So this is a single common opening, right? This is the opening to the exterior. This is a common chamber called the cloaca that opens into the exterior, and this is a single common opening. These are cold-blooded animals or body temperature. That is, they have to change their environment, as I mentioned, that they can undergo estivation. So they may undergo estivation, which is the summer sleep, in order to avoid the summer extreme hot, or they may undergo hibernation in order to escape the cold winter. So this is the winter sleep. Right? So these are cold-blooded animals. They cannot maintain their body temperature. Therefore, they have to escape these situations. Therefore, they may undergo summer sleep, or they may undergo hibernation, which is the winter sleep. Unlike Pisces, in Pisces, we see that it is two-chambered heart. Two-chambered heart. In this, it is a three-chambered heart. Fine. It has two atria and one ventricle, while in Pisces only two atria are present. It is a incomplete double circulation. So when we will discuss about all the vertebrates in details, so we will see that what kind of different circulation takes place. So for now, unlike the Pisces, we can say that in Pisces it is the three-chambered heart, but in the case of amphibia, it is the three-chambered heart. So it has two atrium. One is the right atrium, one is the left atrium, and it has one ventricle only. Right? So what do we mean by incomplete double circulation? So in incomplete double circulation. So firstly, in Pisces, it was a single circulation, right? That is, the blood enters into the heart and leaves the heart at the single time, and it is a venous heart. In incomplete double circulation, what happens is there are two routes of entry, that is right atrium and left atrium. However, there is a common ventricle for the exit, right? So there are two routes of entry, but there is a common exit. So it is an incomplete double circulation. And in this, there is a mixing of the blood that might happen. The oxygenated and deoxygenated blood might, since it is the common chamber. So blood enters into the right atrium, deoxygenated blood. It comes out through the ventricle, reaches to the lungs for oxygenation. From here, it enters into the left atrium, and from there, it again comes to the ventricles and is released to the body parts. Right? So it is an incomplete double circulation where there are two entry ports, that is two atria, and one exit port, one ventricle. So it is a three-chambered heart. RBCs are biconvex, they are oval and nucleated. So they have a nucleated RBC. They have a renal portal system and the hepatic portal system, kidney and liver. Excretory organs, one pair of kidneys are present. Excretory matter, as I have already mentioned, in the aquatic forms, it is mostly the ammonia, but in terrestrial form, it is the urea, which is the excretory matter. Cranial nerves are 10 pairs. Skeletal system is dicondylic skull, while in Pisces, it was monocondylic. So these things you need to remember. Once you are proceeding from the Pisces to the amphibia, what are the differences? So once you will remember these things, it is easy for you to make a differentiate. It is easy for you to differentiate between the various characteristics of the different phyla. So skull has two occipital condyles, therefore they are dicondylic skulls, and ribs are absent in the amphibians. One of the important features is that the eyes have the eyelids. Ears, only one ear ossicle, that is columella in the middle ear is present. A tympanum represents the ear. Reproduction sexes are separate, male and female and males are different. Animals return to water from land for their reproduction. So reproduction, that is egg laying, takes place in water. Fine. Fertilization is external, that is sperms are released into the water. Eggs are released into the water. Sperm fuses with the egg. Fertilization happens in the water only. In some amphibians, fertilization is internal, but in most it is external. Amphibians are oviparous. So oviparous means egg laying. So they lay eggs in the water. Development is indirect. Larva is present. Larva of frog we know, tadpole larva. Larva of salamander is the axolotl larva. So this is important, that the fertilization development is indirect. While if I talk about the Pisces, there the development was direct without any larval stage. Right? So there are different larvae which are named differently. So for a frog it is the tadpole larva. For salamander it is the axolotl larva. The examples of amphibians include the bufo, which is the toad, hyla, which is the tree frog, rana tigrina, which is the Indian bullfrog, Ichthyopis, which is the limbless amphibian. It does not have limb. This is important. And the salamander that has the tail. So this was about the amphibians. So what are the points of differences between the Pisces and the amphibians? So Pisces are monocondylic. They are dicondylic. In body, head, trunk and tail. Mostly the bodies, that is, they are limbless. While amphibians are tetrapods, they have limbs. So they have forelimb and they have hind limb. Their forelimb has 4 digits, while their hind limb has 5 digits. And also their development is indirect. In amphibians, the development is direct. Amphibians in Pisces, we see that they perform migration. The migration can be catadromous or anadromous depending upon the fish type of fish. So it can be catadromous or anadromous. Amphibians, in order to avoid their situations, they undergo estivation or they undergo hibernation. Right? The remaining thing is that in amphibians, there is a presence of eyelids. The other thing is in Pisces, it is a 2-chambered heart. In amphibians, it is a 3-chambered heart. Right? It is a 2-chambered heart with a single circulation in Pisces. While in amphibians, it is a 3-chambered heart, that is 2 atria and 1 ventricle, and it is a incomplete double circulation. Right? So these are the differences, and these are the examples. For example, the buffo, toad, hyla, which is the tree frog, rana tigrina, which is the Indian bullfrog. Next is the Ichthyopis, which is the limbless amphibian, and the next is the salamander, which is the salamandra, that is the salamander that has the tail. So Ichthyopis is one example, which is the limbless amphibian. It does not have limb. although it is an amphibian. In amphibians, one of the important features that we see is that they cannot solely live on land. They are dependent on water, at least for the egg laying. And as I mentioned that in this, the development is indirect. In amphibians, therefore, they have a larval stage. For example, we learn about two larvae in frogs. So the larva, if I talk about in frogs, it is the tadpole larva. And if I talk about of the salamander, it is the axolotl larva. So you need to remember these names, axolotl larva and tadpole larva. Axolotl larva might be asked in the exam also that what is the larva of salamander called. So it is the axolotl larva. So the development is indirect in case of amphibians, while the development is direct in case of the Pisces. So these are the differences in between these two classes of the phylum Chordate. In the next class, we will learn about the three remaining classes, which is the class Reptilia, Aves, and Mammals. And then we will see the differences between these five classes, that is Pisces, Amphibians, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammals. With this, I would like to end today's session. Thank you.